Hello, everyone. Welcome to the network. Welcome to the Two Dads edition.
Wait, that's not it.
Start again.
Two Dads, Gen X edition. That's a great beginning.
Okay. Hey! This is Two Dads Gen X edition. I am Dawson.
And I am James.
And we'd like to welcome you to our wonderful show about everything.
Everything.
If you love our voices, what should they do?
They should go and check us out on YouTube and look at our pretty faces.
Hit that like and subscribe.
Follow us.
And James, you know what? I think we should start this off with a nice dad joke.
A dad joke?
Yeah.
Like what kind of dad joke?
The one you just told.
Oh, the one about how much calcium's in a kiss?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's enough to make a bone about so long.
Boom! Shakalaka-laka!
Yeah.
Hey, tell your friends to follow us.
Yeah,
like,
if you like it,
subscribe,
share it, spread the love.
and let's Two Dads this stuff. Have you ever laughed at the Joker back in the day?
I tried to do the Jim Carrey laugh though. Whatever. Yeah.
Loser.
Loser. Yeah.
Well, we were in Bellagio. We just left
Bellagio? You mean the Bellagio or
Bellagio? Yeah, the casino.
Oh, okay.
Vegas.
The Bellagio. Yes.
Yeah, we just left the bank, which is like their nightclub kind of thing.
Oh, it's not like where you turn in all your money because you lost?
Yeah, no, it's not the bank. It's a bank.
Here you go.
Yeah,
Thanks for letting me play the games. Here's my thousands of dollars because I'm not smart.
correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so we actually just coming out and everything, and I don't know. Obviously, I was just like, I'm Batman, going around, and they're like, you're not Batman. You're more like the fucking Joker. And I literally just went, Batsy, time to go. and it's just like all the way out of Bellagio. I just kept doing it over and over and over again.
Who was with you?
Like my ex and a couple coworkers.
I guess we now know why they're next.
No.
That was not the reason, yeah.
But yeah, I like doing the Joker. So in D&D, when my bard character actually did that same voice, I'd actually be like, oh boy, let's go in here and play. I got a song for us to do. Kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's fun.
So I've played D&D before, not in years, but as a teenager.
Not
and stuff.
the bedroom stuff.
No, not the bedroom stuff.
Okay, good.
These are different games.
Role play. Hey baby,
No,
let's
but
role play.
But D&D, it's I've always struggled with doing voices and acting out the character because I get insecure about it.
Really?
I do. Yeah.
Even though you're behind a mic.
Yeah, I'm behind a mic right now, but we're just.
But now I have cameras.
Yeah, now we have a camera. No, but it's I have realized in the last few years that I'm actually pretty darn insecure about stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I mean, I've always looked at you as a guy that's got your balls on right and your head stapled on, and
it's stapled, not sewn, because it's temporary. No, but I've always been.
And then your actual upper head, is actually
It's
attached.
nice
to
and
it.
shiny because I'm thinning and.
I
all
mean,
that
there's a
fun
lot of
stuff,
glare. I mean, we probably should fix that.
Well, it is what it is. But
a lot of glare coming off that dome.
No, but there was a couple a year or two ago. You weren't there, but I was at Mike's. There was a bunch of the Liberty gang that was there.
Yeah.
And I ended up I had to head out, and I was just like, hey, thanks for letting me hang out with the cool people. And Haley was like, oh, you're part of the cool people, and I'm like, I've never felt it. Not like they did anything wrong. It's just I've never I feel insecure. I feel like I'm a guest almost always.
And I actually kind of can relate to that because I've always been one of those people that I never disinvited anyone. I never allowed anyone not to come. You have those parties in high school. You're like, oh, you can't come. And you try to keep it secret. I was the opposite. I'm like, everyone come. Who cares, man? I want everyone there. I want people to get to know each other and understand each other.
Yeah.
And so I was one of those kids that I was friends of people in every type of clique.
Yeah, me too.
And even with the church and stuff, which I think as I got older, it actually hurt me because I didn't actually have a lot of those deeper seated relationships.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I see like, you know, my friend Mark and Dave and we got some Tucker and a couple other guys that went to college together and got to really know each other.
Right.
You know, and then because of my ex wife and stuff, she didn't really like that group, so then I really wasn't allowed to go hang out with them, kind of thing. And I let that to keep our marriage good. I was like sacrificed that
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, because you know that's how you keep a good solid relationship is you sacrifice your personality and who you are.
that's and that's kind of one of those things. So it's just like growing up, I always had those struggles of how to have that mental, get my mind right, physically be right, you know, and then spiritually be right in the church and stuff like that. And I think with our last episode, we talked about, you know, how hard it is to get, you know, stay fit when you work 100 hours a week and you're doing all these things. And
yeah, raising kids and injuries and old age.
yeah. And so, you know, actually, I think that's a good topic we could go talk today about personal struggles and stuff. You know, like obviously I'm hardest of talking and
you're hard of talking.
Hard of talking. So
me not talk well.
Me not talk well. Oh, me Jane. No,
yeah.
That's my common joke with my elderly patients. Like, I don't hear too good. I'm like, it's okay. I'm hard of talking, so we're perfect for each other. And they're like, that's funny. I'm like, no, really, I'm hard of talking sometimes. But
no, but I so like as a therapist, I see that sometimes with my clients where they talk about their own insecurities too. And, you know, one of the interesting things about being a therapist is just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean like my life is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's not, I don't have the right to be a therapist because I have it all together. I can empathize because I also go through it too, you know?
Well, and I think that's what makes better therapists is the empathy and sympathy.
We recognize our own.
Well, and a lot of people get those two confused.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I think that's what makes me honestly a really good nurse is I'm very empathetic and sympathetic, and I know how to read the room and kind of gauge. And if I have a patient that's struggling, the mental side of it, you know, especially men really struggle when they're in the hospital because they've lost all control of everything, and it's really hard to give up that control.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing I really communicate with them about is just, hey, you know, this sucks. This is going to be hard. But if you want to get through it, you have to mentally be prepared to get through it on top of the physical part of what you're going through. Because the brain helps the body heal and the body helps the brain heal as well.
Right.
You know, they're all one thing. And so,
you know, I had this interesting experience when it was before I got out of the military, after my deployment and everything, and I'd gone to the doctor and I was having some pain and stuff like that. And he had me do this exercise to test my strength where he had me like stand up and go up on my toes.
Yeah.
Did that just fine. They had me go up on my left foot, lift up on, you know, just my left foot up on my toes. No problem. And then he had me do it on my right foot and my heel only went like a half inch off the floor and I could not go any higher. And it was the first time in my life that my body did not do what I wanted it to do. Cause I've always been pretty strong and capable and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I cut down trees and my brothers and I built a pole barn and we put in, small orchards, but we did a lot of physical work.
You say stripper pole? What?
No. That's
Sorry.
But
you're like, shit.
So
don't
like,
let people know I have a stripper pole in my house.
But it was the first time that I couldn't actually physically do something.
Yeah.
So simple. And I remember driving home from that doctor's appointment on base. This is when I was down in Georgia. And I called my wife at the time and told her about it. And I actually got really emotional and started crying on the phone. Not like bawling, but like got teary-eyed and stuff on the phone because it was the first time that I couldn't actually do. And that was the kind of the catalyst that got me to look into. I ended up having 3 surgeries before I got out of the military. I was medically retired from the military because I destroyed my back and everything. But it was like the nerve damage. My body wouldn't respond, and so that became the first like. I got scared because that was the first real event that happened in my life. As stupid and simple as it is, but it was the first thing where it's like, I am not going to bounce back.
Well, that's the mental struggle of that.
Yeah.
Is you start thinking, let's start with just the mental side of our struggles, like what we struggle with mentally. And so,
how long do we have?
well, and the funny thing is that is the mental side of it. So when we physically can't do something, we convince ourselves mentally that we can't do it even more. Mm-hmm. Our bodies are literally made to lift a car, but we stop ourselves from doing it because we don't think we can.
Yeah.
I remember that football player, but I think he worked with Miami, or Tampa Bay, one of the two in Florida. He was on his yacht and it capsized, whatever, and he just treaded water for like a week, I think it was, and till they found him in a shipping lane. But he's like, I'm not dying. I'm not dying. I'm not dying. I'm not dying.
Oh, yeah.
I can do this to save my daughter because I want to see my kids again. And
mentally, we can overcome so much.
Complete atrophy of the muscles, rhabdo, kidney failure. I mean, the guy was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Repairing, but he lived because he mentally said, I'm not dying today. And that's kind of the mental struggles we go with. And
I mean, those are kind of extremes, right?
Yeah.
But what are I mean, you and I both have been divorced. We both, raised kids. What are some of the things that you struggled with just personally in your own life?
Well, I mean, not having a dad growing up, I think for the whole 19 years of Kira and Quinn, I think I just struggled. Am I a good dad? Am I doing what's best for them? Am I teaching them right? I've read so many freaking books on how to raise them, what to do, discipline, how to go about by yourself, which actually made me better as a person, which then made me a better nurse to serve others. And I think the one story like it just hit me hard is I was trying to teach Kira how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
And my frustration obviously was making it worse. Then all the kids around and just jumping on a bike for the first time and doing it fine. And she's scared and I'm trying to like be that, yeah, it's okay to be scared, but why do we fall? So we can get back up, try again.
Yeah.
And I know I probably pushed her too hard. Because I was getting so fucking frustrated, and my frustration wasn't with her. It was, I wish I fucking had this growing up. I wish I had a dad that fucking came out and spent time with me, that tried to teach me how to ride a bike. I mean, how I taught myself how to ride a bike was top of the hill, and you just went down the hill as fast as you could, and you tried to steer, and I hit mailboxes, cars, bushes. And if I wanted to like stop, I would just kind of fall in the grass kind of thing until I finally got it down. But it would have been awesome to have that anchor behind me, helping me, holding
support,
it.
Yeah.
And you see those in movies and TV shows of the dad holding the back end, and they let go, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're doing so good." And I'm trying to like mimic that,
right?
And it just, I just broke down and started crying because it's like I was so frustrated because I wish I had that growing up. And my kids weren't grateful that I was doing it. And I think it was probably one of the few times my ex actually showed a little bit of compassion. And she's just like, yeah, you just got to be more patient. It's like, give him time. But because of that and me pushing the wrong way, in my opinion now, looking back, Kira still hasn't ridden a bike. She still can't ride a bike. Because it's just, for her, it was traumatizing because I was pushing her so much that she just hated it. And
she shut down.
She hasn't tried to do it again. Quinn's trauma is different because he's riding the bike and he started to crash and he tried to jump over the bike. And the handle took him right in the scooch. And
yeah, it's never fun.
And I pick him up and I'm like, "It's okay, buddy, let's go." And I put him back on the bike.
His voice is like 3 pitches higher.
And he's just like, "Oh, Dad, it really hurts." I'm like, "I know, you hit yourself in the fucking nuts, dude. I mean, it's gonna hurt. We just gotta shake it off." And I'm, walking him back. I'm not making him pedal because every time he'd pedal, he'd like wince.
Right.
And so we get back and I go, "Okay, buddy, let's take your pants off." And he's like, "Dad, it really hurts on down here." And I go, and we get the pants off, and I open his legs, and he literally has this tear, just like this huge fucking tear.
Oh,
I mean, it was like a 2-inch tear in the tissue, but it's not bleeding at all because I put him on the bike and it created pressure. So it never bled. It was so weird.
That is odd.
But I'm like, oh shit. So I put his legs back together and I actually tied his legs together so he couldn't open back up, and then rushed him to the hospital and he got stitches. But I was just like, oh my God. And then he wouldn't get back on a bike after that. I was just like,
I don't know if I would either at that point.
I was like, my bad.
I wouldn't either.
And so yeah, so it's like, that was probably like the one that was really hit me harder growing up. I mean, I still mentally struggle with, am I a good friend? Am I a good husband? Or not husband yet, but am I a good boyfriend? Am I doing what's best for me? You know, because I, didn't set really good boundaries. And if I did have boundaries, I was always made to feel bad for having boundaries.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's even as in work, I'm like, I pray every morning. It's like, please let me cause no harm. Let me have a good day. Help me, guide me in the ways that will help me give my patient the care they need to heal and be happy and succeed. And really the best reward I get is I do have patients that tell me like, oh my gosh, you're like one of the best nurses I've ever had. Oh my gosh, you're so attentive. And that's generally the only feedback I get, kind of thing.
Yeah. It's hard when there isn't positive feedback.
It is, and it's hard to be in a work environment where they don't give a shit. It's like you're just another person in the room, and you're getting the same raise as shitty nurse that just sits on her phone, or he sits on his phone, and the call lights are going off, and you're the one getting up and going. You're on top of pain meds. You're verifying anything with the doctors. This doesn't make sense. Let's double check that. And it's
I worked in a factory for a couple of years when my kids were really little, and one of the things that bothered me about doing factory work, because it was union, and I think unions have done a lot of good. I think they have their place, but I think that they also have a lot of negative, and one of them is that it doesn't matter how good of an employee you are or how bad you are, everybody gets the same raise. Nobody, you can't fire them because they're all protected by the contract.
Yeah.
But it's like, so like with nurses, I mean, I would want a healthcare worker to be the best. I want them to be attentive. I want them, and so if there's somebody who's like doing the bare minimum, to me, they shouldn't get paid. It's like when I tip, because I've waited tables before too, and it's like when I tip based on service. I don't tip because you don't make a lot of money or because you tell me to. No, I tip because you either give me good service or sometimes I don't tip.
Yeah,
it's rare, but I have gone no tip, wrote a note on there. It would have been nice if you actually like paid attention, that's the tip.
Yeah, actually do
advice. Because I've waited tables. I know what that's like.
Yeah, same too. Yeah,
there's you're doing a service, right? But when it comes to like nursing or doctors or surgeons or anything like that, I don't care if a doctor has good bedside manner. Are they good?
Well,
bedside manner matters.
And I don't think I've ever met a doctor that had really good bedside manner that was a bad doctor. Like I've never seen one in 25 years that had really good bedside manner, because generally the doctors and nurses and really anyone that comes into that room, when they have good bedside manner, that generally shows they care about the job and not the money or the person.
But you're on the medical industry side. I'm on the patient side, where it's like, I'd rather have a surgeon who's an asshole but really good at their job.
And I get that question all the time.
Yeah, but like there was a client that I had that she was a surgical nurse, and she talked about how there was a patient who was in his late 20s, early 30s, something like that. They did the surgery, everything went smoothly, and then as they're as they're wrapping everything up, he codes. Healthy. There's no indication that there would be a risk or anything like that. And she immediately, jumps on top. She starts doing compressions. The other nurse is doing, breathing, and they bring him back. And she asked me as a therapist, was it normal or was it okay that she had no emotion? She was just trying to get his heart going and all that. And I said, no, that's actually what I would want.
Well, yeah, that's how you should be. Like,
I don't want you to freak out. I don't want you to get emotional. I want you to do the job. Right.
and that's generally one of my biggest compliments everywhere I worked. They're like, yeah, I'm goofy, funny. I'm lighthearted. I don't bitch at all. You know,
Yeah.
like, I rarely complain because it's like, that's a waste of fucking time.
Yep. And it doesn't do any good
when
anyway.
I was a manager at the Buckle, I was taught by my predecessor that don't come to me if you can't solve the problem that you're coming to me with.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you're just bitching and you're complaining. And then he had a great knack is like, oh, that's a great problem. I go, what solutions have you come up with to fix that?
Yeah.
And great people fucking figure out solutions. They're like, well, actually, I think we should do this, 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 and this. And then he would go, okay, that won't work because of this. That won't work because of that. Because he had more experience for me,
Right.
kind of thing. And it's just funny how you'll get those compliments, you know, it's like, you're goofy, but man, when someone's like not doing good, I mean, you just go pure stoic and you're just flat.
Well, but see, that actually translates into like some of the insecurity side of things where it's like, so I have things that I'm insecure about in my own life, of course. And I take that approach of like, okay, it's a problem I need to fix. How do I fix it? And so like part of the weight loss, you know, part of me, you know, getting healthier is I did not like the weight I'd gotten to. I didn't like the way I felt, you know, with having had as many surgeries as I've had, and I'll probably in the next year have like 2 or 3 more, quite honestly. But like, you know, how do I fix it? If I don't like the way I feel, how do I fix it? The challenge though that I have emotionally and mentally about it is that just because I've lost weight doesn't mean I feel happy. You know, I'm glad I lost weight. I feel a lot better physically. But
well, do you think that comes from you never actually getting positive feedback from you losing weight the other times? Because there is some truth to like when you actually get positive feedback and then you do start to feel good, it's like you get the mental and the physical part. But if you're getting the physical part, but you're not really getting a mental reward, and the sad thing is that's on you, you know, really.
Well, no. I mean, so I do get positive feedback. I've had a lot of compliments. A lot of people who are like, man, you look great, you know, all this other stuff.
But when you close your eyes, what do you see? Do you see this body or your
this
old
body? Yeah.
Is you this one?
Oh yeah, this one.
Good. Yeah.
But, and here's part of the challenge that I've had. So a lot of, and this goes to the divorces, I think.
Yeah.
Because of the criticism, because of the rejection. Even though I'm grateful for, you know, having lost weight and I'm getting in shape, you know, I was in the gym this morning and, you know, I have this little app that my trainer has me using where it's like, it's best volume so far, you know, hey, you've maxed out, you know, two maxes, you know, highest weight, you know, all that stuff. And it's great because there's that positive feedback with that. But it's like, I still don't at times feel like enough, you know, with rejection's a really hard, painful thing. And so even though like I've gone out with a couple people since my second divorce and I've talked with a couple people, but it's like I default to this, but I hate that. I don't like that.
Well, that probably goes down to you haven't had enough positive reinforcement for the changes you've made.
No, well, and not only that, but like, you know, because I've spent what?
And that was a question.
Oh, that was a question?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like I ask you, like as a therapist, like is that? Will you see that with people? Because like I guess mentally you're trying to change your image. Because I think the main goal in general in life is you see yourself how other people see you. Like, you don't want to see yourself as this amazing, awesome, kind individual, but the Western world thinks you're a piece of shit, you're an asshole, you know, you're self-centered.
I mean, we can delude ourselves, but...
Right, but I think honestly, I think when you're finding, like I call the little triangle, when you're mentally, physically, and spiritually aligned equally, you do see yourself how other people see you. And
so that I kind of like that perspective actually, where it's like those three things, and if you are aligned, then you have a lot more self-confidence.
Yeah.
I think because of different life experiences and some of the challenges that I've had, those have not been aligned. you know, we look for our reimbursement, or not a reimbursement, but our reassurance from our partners when we're in a serious relationship or we're married. And that, even though sometimes it was verbalized, doesn't mean that it was shown.
Right. And I
You
think
know,
you could have somebody telling you all day that you're great, you're great, you're amazing,
Right.
you're amazing. But if you don't mentally clear your mind and mentally get in a place where you feel like you're great and you're doing well, then it doesn't matter what other people say.
well, like here's an example. So like with my second marriage, I haven't talked a whole lot about my second marriage. I haven't talked a whole lot of detail about either one, but in my second marriage,
And I'm just fucking vomiting.
so in my second marriage, we talked through all kinds of stuff leading up to it. We talked about communication, all these things. One of the big problems was that there was, I mean, intimacy was almost non-existent.
Yeah.
And we would talk about that. And I would share that, you know, it's not sex necessarily, but the physical intimacy is reassuring to me. You know, that's something that shows me that I'm connected with my partner.
Well, and women, just so you know, men actually do like touch.
Yeah.
And they do like the small things.
You know, and
just
so it's
like you guys.
If I'm being told I'm a great guy, you know, I'm loved, I'm all this other stuff, but then there's no
showing it, yeah.
Then there's a huge disconnect. And
Yeah.
what am I supposed to actually listen to? You know, there's the words that are being used, but then there's the action that's not being shown.
Yeah.
And that's more meaningful. And so, I'm hearing these words, but there's this huge disconnect to what I'm being shown. It's like, well, then what is this really? You know? And so it got to the point where I finally was, you know, I couldn't keep going that way. I mean, I think in the last year of the marriage, we had sex once.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Is it a Christmas thing?
No, no. It's just, well,
she pig bun to you?
no, no. But it was one of those things where it's like,
sex for Christmas.
Well, it's
I
like-
want presents.
but it's like, that's, you know, I want to connect
Yeah.
and I'm not connecting. And so now it's like, because of going through that for years, and the end of my second marriage, or my first marriage, I mean, I finally got to the point where it's like, if you want some attention, you let me know. I'm not going to look at you, touch you, kiss you, hold your hand, nothing, until you let me know that that's what you want, because I'm tired of being told that all I ever want is sex and that's it. When I'm telling you and I'm trying to show you, no, that is not what I want. I want to connect with you.
Yeah.
And so it's like, there's this physical rejection from people that were supposed to be people that I was connected with. And so now it's at the point where it's like, is it not enough? Am I not enough anymore?
Well, yeah.
You know?
I mean, you know, that's where the negative self-talk starts creeping in.
And so as a therapist, I know that.
Defecating, yeah.
Self-defecating? Is that
Am I saying
Deprecating.
that? Yeah, okay.
Deprecating.
I always say
Self-deprecation.
You know, you shoot yourself. And,
Well,
and
and-
it's wonderful.
And part of when I,
Spongy, you know.
so like raising my kids, you know, when I got custody of my kids, one of the things we did was we sat down and we made house rules. I had them make the majority of the rules.
Yeah,
But one of the things that I had in there, because I only, like, the first rule was you have to show love and respect for each other. All the other rules have to be surrounded or have to reflect that idea.
Yeah.
But one of the rules that I did make was no self-deprecation, because it's bad enough you're hearing all this negative stuff from other people, but if you're telling yourself all this negative, you're going to believe it that much faster.
Oh, yeah.
But I had that rule because that's what I was feeling. That's what I was experiencing. And I didn't want my kids to have that experience.
Yeah. Well, and that's that mental part of it that I think that's the key, is if you're having negative self-talk, you're basically putting yourself down, and no matter what anyone says to you, it won't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe it, and that's why I asked that question, it's like, what body do you see when you close your eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's why it's so hard for some people to lose the weight, because they still mentally see themselves as fat, and subconsciously it's been proven that as you leave weight, you start to doubt the success you've had, and you will actually start self-sabotaging by eating more, doing things that you know that will make it harder to lose weight. And so that kind of goes, as a therapist, how do you teach your clients how to break that, negative self-talk?
So one of the things that I do, if we get to that place, one of them is to recognize, the cognitive distortions that we all have. We all do it. There's lots of different distortions. One of mine is catastrophizing and personalizing. Catastrophizing is like, if something's starting to go wrong, everything's going to fall apart.
Yeah.
And
I used to feel that way about vacations.
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, even a couple, a few months back, where it's like I was going to come to your house on a Sunday, and it was like we were going to talk about like some of the direction that we want to go with this podcast and all that. And then I got there. We had talked about me being there at a certain time, around a certain time. And then I got to your house, and you said we're shopping, and I'm like, this is you don't know this. So I was driving home, and I'm like, shoot, he's not serious about this. This is going to be another failed project. This, what am I doing here? And I got to that, the big Ferris wheel thing. Yeah. I was driving up I-35 and I was passing that. And I went, James, you're catastrophizing. It's a cognitive distortion. Stop it. That's not what's going on here. But I had to I was out loud in my car saying that to myself, because I had to tell myself that, because I recognized I was going through that cognitive distortion. I knew that you wanted to do this. I know you wanted this to be successful, but in my head, I was catastrophizing.
Yeah, because at that time, you felt like I wasn't taking it as serious as you were.
And it had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It was all about my fear, and so the self-sabotaging that we do with these cognitive distortions, and recognizing that they are lies that we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
Based on what we think rather than what's real. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we're able to convince ourselves so thoroughly that becomes our reality sometimes. So one of the things that I do with a lot of my clients is I challenge them I give them homework to research cognitive distortions and recognize and write down which ones they actually do, so they can recognize it. And the next step of that is, as you become more aware of it, it starts to shift.
Yeah.
And so just the awareness. And so like the next step is to then track how often you find yourself actually falling for those distortions. Sometimes people are like, I do it many times a day.
A lot.
Or do it all the time. And so that brings more awareness. And then the next step after that is, how do we actually overcome the cognitive distortions? We challenge them with truth.
Yeah. Well, and I found that really, really, really effective too. When I was in marriage counseling, that's what she noticed. She's like, you self-sabotage, you negative self-talk so bad. Like, you'll literally answer the question for her half the time,
right? Putting
yourself down.
Yeah, and we assume what other people are thinking and feeling, and then that's what we then react to.
Yeah, and so it's like, there are blind times that I would have this whole scenario in my head of all these bad things, just because I said, if she comes home and doesn't give me a hug, then this, and just goes crazy. And then I'd lash out on her.
Mm-hmm. And she hasn't done anything.
And she's like, what the fuck, dude? I'm like, what the hell? And so that was so key to go to therapy for that, because it did help me get my mind straight, did help me understand what I was doing wrong to hurt myself mentally, which was applying to my physical side, which then was hurting my spiritual side, because I was putting myself down at all three levels.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve that, this and that. And it was really hard, because it's just like, to challenge yourself and do what you did in the car.
Yeah.
It's like, it literally is like smacking yourself in the face and be like, dude, shut the fuck up. It's like, come on, man.
Basically,
you know better. You know better.
And
I should just ask, are you mad at me because I didn't do this? Like, that was the one thing I really learned. It's like, just fucking ask a question.
Or a better question than that is like, hey, I feel like you might be mad at me. Is that what's going on?
And they're like, no, why? I'm like, okay, cool. I'm moving on. As a man, I'm going to go, oh, okay, cool.
And then the challenge is we have to accept the other person's answer is true.
Yeah, we do. We have to.
Right.
And if they chose to brush it off or bury it, that's really on them, because I
can only go off of what you tell me.
Yeah. And it's like, and I think that's one thing women really struggle with is, generally most men say what they mean.
Yep.
There's no hidden meaning behind it. Mm-hmm. It's literally just point blank. And the other mistake is they a lot of times expect us to read their minds. And I'll tell you, women, we're fucking idiots when it comes to that. Like, I think we'll maybe get it 1% right in the year.
That's the thing is, like,
we know what you mean and what you want.
Because I knew that was the case. That's we talked about that. I told her, I said, I'm not going to be able to read your mind, and I'm not going to pick up on hints.
Yeah.
Not because I'm an idiot, but because I don't know what you're thinking. If you want something, tell me.
Oh yeah.
You know, and then it was what I found in the last towards the end of the marriage. I found myself saying more and more when we would talk about these struggles that we were having, because I remember the moment too where it was like she was in the kitchen, I'm in the living room, and I went and I had the thought, we make really good roommates.
Yeah.
And I hated the fact that that's the feeling that I had, and so I brought it up, and I'm like, yeah, I had this feeling that it had this thought that crossed my mind. I don't want that to be the case.
Yeah.
I want to fix it. What do we need to do? Let's figure this out. And she started reacting to that by assuming what I was saying. And I found myself more and more in the marriage saying, that is not what I said. That is not what I meant. Don't put words in my mouth.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning I said, I'm going to say what I feel. I am, accuracy is very important to me. Communication is very important to me. And so I try to say exactly what I feel and exactly what I'm thinking. And if you are not if you're taking it a different way, or if you're not sure what I mean, ask me, and I will tell you. We'll talk through it. I will make sure that I'm clear about it.
That reinforced behavior,
right?
Reinforced feedback,
and then
active listening.
It was active listening, right? Because it's a powerful tool in communications, active listening, and it was happening less and less.
Yeah,
and so all of these things have kind of like, even though I'm aware of all this as a therapist, especially,
yeah.
It's really hard when we have this personal struggle. And so like one of the things that I really find myself struggling with is, one of them is, quite honestly, am I attractive enough? Are girls attracted to me?
I mean, like I said, when the lights are out, we're all tense.
You're right. But like, because I've been on dating apps and I don't get much response.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I guess I'm not desirable, right? I'm in a ton of debt. I make enough money. I'm okay, and I have a buffer in my budget and all that kind of stuff. But it's like in my second divorce, one of the things that I did was, she took her credit cards. It's about $8,000 worth. I took everything else. I took like $90,000 of debt, not including the house.
Yeah.
And so I feel the weight of that in the marriage. I mean, she knew I felt the weight of our debt. Part of it is like there's solar panels on the house and stuff like that, but it's like I have to pay for all that. And so I have all of these bills, all these payments that I'm making, and I make enough money to cover it all, but I feel the weight of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and this is part of the stupidity of social media, but all these women that are like, if he's not making this much money, all this other stuff, and we still compare ourselves.
But it's a mental demoralizing.
It is.
Because you're like, well, shit, I'm not pushing 400. I mean, fuck, and I'm 50. I think after my divorce, I was dating some people and stuff like that, and there's one gal, man, we dated for like probably 6 to 9 months, and never really intimate. We just kind of kissed here and there, but she would basically just end it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. And then she dated other people and then come back. And I was just finally to the point where I'm like, hey, I'm not going to do this. You're going to keep shopping around.
Yeah.
If I'm good enough, I'm good enough. If I'm not. And she goes, yeah, but you don't really own anything. So newly divorced. You don't own anything.
I don't own my house. The bank does.
You have all
I'm
this
making payments.
all this new debt from going to school, and I don't know if you have any retirement plan.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, so I just heard money, not you're a great dad, you're fun to go out with, you're kind to me, you're nice.
Right. Nice guys.
Literally, right? You don't have enough money, and then I just kind of find it's just like, but
part of the problem is that it seems like, and this is all just my interpretation, but it seems like more and more there's a larger and larger percentage of the female population that are single that's the way they think. So it's like you can be attracted to somebody that can be really intelligent, have a great job, all this other stuff, but then they're evaluating by these standards that are almost unreachable, right?
But it's also the age.
What do you mean by the age?
Well, it's also the age. Like, you're close to 50. And so in their mindset, it's like, okay, can they retire? Can we travel? Can we do all this stuff? Like none of them have a focus of building something with somebody anymore, because they want it already built.
And that's where I am now. It's like, with my debt, I am going to be out of debt within the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Completely. Besides the house. But like, I'm set on that. Both marriages, as much as we may have talked about those things, I didn't have the support to actually accomplish that.
Yeah.
In fact, my first wife's family, I remember like her mother-in-law was like, well, we're just always going to be in debt, so why worry about it? I don't want it.
I don't want to be in debt either.
If I didn't have debt, you know how much extra money I'd have every month? I could build a savings, right? I could build a retirement. But, and so it's, there's that part of it, but it's like, I'm going to get healthy, right? So I'm way down the road on that now, but that was because of my determination, because I don't want to feel this way anymore. I don't want to feel the weight of debt anymore. I don't want these things. But then there's this side of the struggle too, where it's like the morals and the spirituality of life too, where it's like that becomes a struggle too.
Yeah.
I
mean, it really does. I think that's one thing I've struggled almost my whole life. Like I believe in Heavenly Father and, the Holy Ghost and Jesus Christ, and they are our Savior. And, He did die for us for our sins. And if we lose listeners just now because of that, that's on you. But I think the great thing is Charlie Kirk, has really opened people's eyes to this country has demoralized and demonized families, demonized men as leaders, masculinity, which
demonized morals.
It's like, and there's a great song by a girl it's talks about how if you want to save yourself, marriage, you're a prude. If you sleep with other people, you're a whore. It's like back and forth, and it's like you can't please anyone. And the whole point is fuck them, fuck all those people. Do what's best for you and mentally get yourself clean, physically clean and spiritually clean. And I won't lie, man. The big thing for me is, I pray every day, and there's times like I know I'm not spiritually sound enough sometimes to hear Him, or actually hear the message back. Sometimes I'll pray for guidance and stuff like that, and I might not get it, but I also know that there's times that I'm not in a spiritual place to hear the message. And so, but a lot of times it's because mentally I'm not right and physically I'm not right. So then therefore I'm not spiritually right. And that's something I've dealt with my whole life, because it's, unfortunately, I've been poor most of my life. I've had shitty marriage. I was just abused through that. I had a second relationship that was abused. And so I always felt like I was in survival mode on all three of those things. And
how can you focus on the other aspects of life when you're in survival mode, right?
Yeah. And so now in my life, I truly, truly, truly am in a place where, I am focusing on getting healthier. Mentally, I'm doing more for me. And spiritually, I've been more candid and open with it, because it does make me feel better to have that relationship. And it's been great, because my nephew, he asked me when I visited my brother, he's like, hey, how come you don't go to church? How come you don't do this? And he was challenging me. And it was like, I go, well, honestly, I'll tell you right now, everything I tell you is just excuses. I go, but I had an ex that hated the church. So she's like, you always work every other Sunday, so why should we waste our day? Second one pretty much was agnostic. She didn't give a shit about God at all. And so if she caught me praying, she'd mock me and basically make fun of me. Yeah. But Sid, I mean, she's amazing. She has a relationship with Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, and she grew up Catholic, and so we've gone like the Easter Mass and stuff like that, and I just can appreciate it. And I felt the Spirit, going there, and it's nice to, I'm like, holy crap, it really is nice having someone that is aligned with you and sees you and respects you, and you respect them back.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is
you can go suck it.
No, I don't say that.
No, I know.
In a way to like brag.
No, I'm
it's
envious.
like the despair I used to have just on that, and it's like I'd be fine. Like honestly, if her and I didn't work out, I'm done. with women. You know, it's like, I'm just going to fucking probably build a house with you three and we'll just have a bachelor pad and we'll just hang out and, you know, and
I'm down.
fishing in a boat. You know?
Yeah. No, and that's the thing is like, I'm at that place now where it's like all of these things that I've struggled with for years that I hoped to have a partner that I could build those things with have failed for all kinds of reasons. Many of them mine, many of them theirs, doesn't matter. And so I'm at that place now where it's like, you know, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to build these things with. I'm going to just do it myself.
Yeah. And
if that's what it takes, I'll do it myself. So financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally, fuck it. I'll do it myself.
But that's what it's supposed to be.
But we're supposed to be connected to, you know,
right.
And so it's like, I've made that decision, not because of like resentment or anything like that, but it's like this realization that and this may have been my flaw the entire time. It has to be me. If there's somebody that can join me with that and I can help them in their journey too, awesome. But I'm not waiting around for that to do this, to do these things. I am doing it no matter what. Well, because I'm tired of it.
And it really goes down to that cliche. It's not about you, it's me. You know, and it really, there really is so much truth to that. I think I was attracting those type of horrible people because I mentally wasn't in a strong place. And I think you're seeing these men, these young kids with all their mental issues, anxiety, depression, having to have likes and all these things. Their focus isn't on themselves. It focuses on pleasing other people. And that's where the struggles with all these threes come, is when your whole focus is pleasing others.
Yeah.
You neglect yourself.
Yep.
And you are never going to be happy. And some of the most selfish people, they're happy as hell. So, and it kind of leads me into, you know, next week's topic is, you know, I think we should do a boundaries one. Like setting personal boundaries and finding healthy ways and recognizing unhealthy boundaries.
Right. Because
kind of stuff.
And the thing is we all have boundaries all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're healthy. Sometimes they're not.
Yeah. Well,
we don't want to say good and bad because it's like shame and guilt, right? We don't want to. But like sometimes our boundaries are healthy, sometimes they're not healthy. But I had this epiphany about relationships for myself about a week or two ago.
It only took 48 years.
It only took me,
So really, 48 years, 32 weeks.
So I've always kind of been attracted to women that are somewhat broken. But here's the reason why I think.
You're a therapist?
No, but that's probably part of why I've been a therapist too. But it's by helping them heal and helping them fix themselves, then they're going to love me more. And that's the flaw.
Yeah. I think that's what was my issue too, honestly.
So.
And, you know, I get to the place now where I feel loved for the first time in my life.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved you for a long time, but not that way.
But like, not like I need that reinforcement. It literally is a natural love that it's effortless for her and it's effortless for me. And that's how it's supposed to be. And, you know, and I will plug therapy again. I think if you are struggling mentally with who you are, where you are in life, and I'm talking about all aspects of people that don't know if they're a cat or a dog or a buffalo, a boy or a girl or whoever, you got to get your mind right. You got to put the world away, shut all that shit down and look at yourself, and then find a therapist that actually is helping you find you and not telling you who you are.
Yeah. Very true.
No.
All right, man.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah. See you next time.
Stay classy, Kansas City. Hey, you made it to the end of the episode. Congratulations. Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave some comments for us and tell your friends about us.
What just happened?
I don't know.